Two bad comic book movies, both of which feature Ryan Reynolds. And no, Blade Trinity isn't one of them. Already talked about that before in a previous video. So before we talk about both of these movies, I just want to set the groundwork and my current feelings towards Ryan Reynolds. Like many others before me, I felt that Ryan Reynolds, even when he was in bad movies, he was always one of the better parts of them. He was kind of like James Marsden in that regard. You can put him in bad movies and he was usually the best part. But that wasn't always the case. I mean, go back to when I talked about Blade Trinity. He's horrible in that. He is so tiresome, trying so hard to be the edgelord, constantly saying crude things, which, hey, maybe that kind of thing worked in Deadpool. It did not work back then. I still do enjoy the Deadpool movies fine. I even liked the third one. I thought that was a good way to cap everything off. But knowing the current state of Disney and Marvel, they're probably going to find a way to milk even more Deadpool movies or maybe shorts for streaming or whatever. They're going to find a way to keep it going, even though they said they wanted the third one to be the last one. And the funny thing is, between these two movies we're going to be talking about, and Blade Trinity, and X-Men Origins, there were tons of examples of Ryan Reynolds trying to be in comic book movies, and before they finally got it right with the Deadpool movies, he fucking sucked in them. And granted, his performance was only part of the equation. The rest of it was because the movies just fucking sucked. They were badly written. They felt like they were mischaracterizing him. They didn't use him effectively. But man, then you jump forward to Deadpool and it's like, wow, they finally got their shit together. They finally got it right. But before the first Deadpool movie, Ryan Reynolds was in these two movies, one of which no one really talks about, and the other one, which is what we're going to start with, Green Lantern, is the one that he always makes fun of. It's the movie that he's aware sucks.
And please don't make the super suit green or animated.
And while I do appreciate him having a sense of humor and making fun of these movies and basically apologizing for them, I think he has plenty of other things that he should be apologizing for. Namely, Free Guy. And also the fact that he's married to Blake Lively.
Ryan Reynolds, how's it going?
Great. Why? What have you heard?
Who, funny enough, he actually met through Green Lantern. Sworn to preserve intergalactic order, the Green Lantern Corps has existed for centuries. Its newest recruit, Hal Jordan, is the first human to join their ranks. The Green Lanterns have little regard for humans, who have thus far been unable to harness the power of the ring each member wears. But Jordan, a gifted and cocky test pilot, may be the Corps' only hope when a new enemy called Parallax threatens the universal balance of power. So starting with Green Lantern, before we even talk about the movie itself, I just want to talk about the kind of interesting point in time in terms of Hollywood comic book movies that it came out in. It was made at a time when they were still taking their time with some of these things versus the factory line assembly mentality they have with these things now. But as it stands, when Green Lantern came out, so many people either just didn't care or people outright hated the movie. And I actually didn't see it when it came out. I just heard it was bad and took everyone's word for it and went, all right, yeah, I'm not wasting my time. I'm not going to see it. But then I decided, you know what? I heard so many people say that sucked. Why not? Actually try to sit down and watch it for yourself. And sure enough, yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. As for the movie itself, it is basically an origin story, and it feels like they had lots of big plans going into this, especially considering this has a mid-credit sequence that felt like it was setting up for a sequel that never happened. So good to see that that trend was definitely in its infancy back then. But as for the plot, if you're familiar with the comics, you know exactly what it is. Hal Jordan is a military pilot. He's a bit cocky, but he's very fearless is the thing. He's very fearless. And the movie does not stop in the constant referencing to how fearless he is.
Are you scared?
It's my job not to be.
We get it. A big part of this film's plot is going to involve fear and how people react to it. But my God, the dialogue is so unsubtle. Even for comic book movie standards, it is really in your face. One of the members of the Green Lantern Corps end up landing to Earth. Hal rushes to save the alien. The alien dies, gives him his ring, and he becomes the first human member of the Green Lantern Corps. And he gets shot up into space. But once he comes face to face with the Green Lantern Corps, he ends up in an obviously CG suit. A suit that everyone made fun of for obviously being CG. And, I mean, while it is kind of a dumb thing to nitpick on, yeah, it doesn't look that great. It's not that the CG even looks terrible, but it's just like, why make all of it CG? You couldn't make him an actual suit? Or even like the face mask that goes around his eyes. You couldn't get him a real face mask? It's that weird uncanny valley where it looks real enough, but once you actually pause it and look at it enough times, you're like, yeah, that doesn't look real. It's almost as bad as the weird CG shit they used to get rid of Henry Cavill's mustache in Justice League. He's trying to accept it, he's trying to adapt to it. They put him through rigorous training, he can't deal with it, and he just walks away.
I'm done. He's right, I'm only human. We're not ready to defend the universe. Up until a few days ago, we thought we were the only ones in the universe.
And this is like halfway through the movie, and it's right there where I gotta talk about his characterization as Hal Jordan. Ryan Reynolds is not a very good Hal Jordan. He basically just plays it like he plays every other character himself.
I would have gone with Jensen.
I'd have gone with Jensen too, but unfortunately, he's busy not being good enough.
That kind of thing works for Deadpool. That doesn't really work for Hal Jordan. Granted, as the movie goes on, he feels a little bit more like the character when he actually gets into some of the more heroic stuff. But for a good duration of the movie, especially in the first half, I mean, the opening scene is him waking up and having to run off on a girl that he just had sex with.
Sorry, I gotta run. Make yourself at home, okay? There's, water in the tap.
And then after that, there's a scene of him driving to get to work, and he tries to swerve around somebody, but then he has to swerve back because there's a car that's in the oncoming lane. And the entire time, it's just like, that's not Hal Jordan, man. I'm sorry, that is not Hal Jordan. And that scene where Hal has to walk away and say, I can't be a Green Lantern, that is one of the many examples of, okay, that's not only cliche, that's just completely misunderstanding the character. Obviously, for the point of the story, you gotta have that scene where the character doesn't believe he can do something and he has to step away, and then he ends up coming back to everything and proving himself in the end. But man, that felt so un-Hal Jordan. There's a scene where, because of his recklessness, he gets a bunch of people fired at the government agency that he works for, and these guys approach him at this bar in the parking lot, and they rough him up a bit, they punch him in the stomach, they knock him down to the ground, but then he gets up with his Green Lantern ring and just annihilates these fucking guys. I mean, he doesn't kill them or anything, but like, all they were missing was a scene where Blake Lively is like, oh, did you hear about the guys at the bar the other night? They got pretty roughed up. Wonder what caused that. While this is going on, the dead alien is taken in by a government facility to study it, and here's where we get the character of Hammond from the comics, who obviously goes on to become a villain. He's played by Bill Skarsgård. But much like the comics, the character of Hammond goes from being a mild-mannered scientist who has a thing for Carol, who is the love interest for Hal, like I mentioned earlier, played by Blake Lively, but we'll get to the fucking terrible romance subplot in this movie. But Hammond, in this movie, I don't know if it was just the makeup, they were trying to make him look like the character, I guess, but when they showed Bill Skarsgård, the way he looks, his hairline and his mustache, I was just thinking, man, you put some Coke bottle glasses on him, he kind of looks like the mad scientist guy from Mystery Science Theater. But slowly throughout the movie, he ends up getting infected with this parasite that was in the alien, and they were like dissecting it and studying it. And he starts to become more and more like the monstrous version of Hammond we see in the comics, where he slowly becomes more evil, and he also develops abilities like telepathy and telekinesis. We also have Amanda Waller in here, played by poor Angela Bassett.
As a xenobiologist, your skills are specifically suited to the task. Beyond that, I'm not at liberty to tell you.
I guess if anything, it's better than being in Critters 4. And then you get to Blake Lively, which, current opinions of her aside, she's not very good in this movie. Her and Ryan Reynolds' chemistry is just kind of awkward. They feel more like brother and sister, when in the comics they were supposed to have a very passionate, loving, burning relationship with each other. But there are just these awkward scenes where, he has to go to her and reveal that he is a Green Lantern, and it just feels like something out of a fucking sitcom or a soap opera or a rom-com even.
Oh my god! Oh my god, Hal!
How did you know it was me?
What do you mean? I've known you my whole life. I've seen you naked. You don't think I would recognize you because I can't see your cheekbones?
Eventually, Hammond starts to become more and more evil. His father, who's a senator, played by Tim Robbins, and again, every time they showed him, I just couldn't help but think, God, why does he look so much like Keith Olbermann in this fucking movie? That's what he kept reminding me of.
Since I'm going to have to lay off most of my company anyway, you're fired.
It's too late,
You don't
Carl,
get
I
off that
quit.
easy. He's not fired.
But anyway, Senator Tim Robbins and the rest of the medical staff keep going to Hammond and saying, like, you're turning into something. You were infected by some kind of alien contagion. So they try to study him, but he uses his powers to basically kill these people. And, well, that's when you know he's going to basically be the main villain, kind of, until he doesn't. Because this movie jumps the fucking shark and they make Parallax the main villain. And for what it's worth, yes, Parallax is the big bad evil of the Green Lantern stories, but you don't jump headfirst into having Parallax be the main villain. That feels like something they should have been building to throughout the movies. It's almost like if in the Avengers, the first Avengers movie, they had Thanos as the villain. No, that's something you need to build towards. You need to work your way up to that. There's a point in the third act where Hammond kidnaps Carol and him and Hal have a standoff, and Hammond has the whole thing of, I've always loved her, but you kept getting in the way, and she never appreciated my genius, and yada yada.
I loved her from the moment I first saw her. But she could never see me as you were always standing in the way. But not anymore.
Parallax shows up because they kept building up Parallax since the beginning of the movie. They kept hyping that up, and eventually he shows up and possesses Hammond, which is really hilarious. Every time they try to show Hammond's face in what Parallax is supposed to be, it just comes off really silly. And speaking of silly, how they portray Parallax throughout this movie, oh my god. I mean, yes, in the comics he's supposed to be the embodiment of fear, sort of, I get that, but they really watered the character down for this movie. He's like a mix of the Nothing from Neverending Story, mixed with Cthulhu, because he has tentacles and stuff every once in a while, mixed with Monster, because every time they kept showing him, it looked like a giant cloud of feces attacking the city.
You can never beat this. You'll die.
And granted, the third act fight scene that's going on in the city, you got people running from this giant cloud of shit with a wacky looking face with a bulbous head on it. It's like, okay, it's silly, but okay, it's actually kind of fun. It's kind of something you'd expect from a Green Lantern movie. Again, maybe if they saved their time and built up to having Parallax as a villain, like if this was in like a fourth or fifth DC Cinematic Universe movie, it would have made a little more sense. But no, it just kind of felt rushed. It's just like, oh, finally, something that actually looks like something out of a Green Lantern movie. And it's the last few minutes of the fucking thing. So Hal decides to go up into space, and paying off a thing that they mentioned earlier.
Just the gravitational pull of your average sun makes flying through space very dangerous.
Fly towards the sun, and Parallax ends up getting sucked into its gravitational pull, and it just incinerates on impact. And so all the rest of the Green Lanterns congratulate Hal.
Can I train him? Or can I train him?
And it was at that point I was thinking, shit, you could have had a whole movie where it's just him getting to know some of these other Lanterns. That could have had some meat to it, but no. They didn't do any of that. Anything that would have made a truly compelling Green Lantern movie just completely squandered. And like I mentioned earlier, there's a mid-credit scene where you see Sinestro, who they kept hyping up as not liking Hal because he's supposed to be the replacement for his former partner.
The core is only as strong as its weakest link, and I will tolerate no weak links.
But at the end of the movie, oh noes, it turns out that he's put on a yellow lantern ring. So he's probably going to become a yellow lantern and become evil and corrupted and go on to become the villain of the next movie. That's totally not going to happen. I mean, it's easy to see why people hate this movie. It's easy to see why a lot of people said it was a really bad Green Lantern movie. It's easy to see why people said that it was a terrible comic book movie from the early 2010s. But compared to some other comic book movies I've seen, I don't know if I can say it's the worst. I've certainly seen far worse. I mean, I would argue Catwoman is a more entertaining movie than this, but for all the wrong reasons. This movie had elements that could have worked if they truly fine-tuned it and maybe cut down certain elements and played up other ones. But no, it just feels like a very lackluster Green Lantern movie. It's not like the current wave of bad superhero movies that come out where they're just incredibly forgettable. They just have gigantic budgets for no reason, just so they can get a bunch of big-named actors in there, and they just feel really soulless. Like, when they're really bad, they just feel completely empty and hollow. But it's also not like bad comic book movies from the early 2000s or the 90s, like Captain America in 1990, or even Catwoman, where those movies are bad, but they're entertainingly bad. This is just kind of standard bad. It's just like, yeah, it's not a good Green Lantern movie. You know, is it the worst thing ever? Not really, but it's certainly not a good Green Lantern movie. That's for sure. And with that, we move on to our next movie, RIPD, the Rest in Peace Department. A veteran lawman played by Jeff Bridges works for the RIPD, a legendary police force charged with finding monstrous spirits who are disguised as ordinary people but are trying to avoid their final judgment by hiding out amongst the living. When Roy and his new partner Nick, played by Ryan Reynolds, uncover a plot that could end all life, they must discover a way to restore the cosmic balance or else watch the tunnel of the afterlife start sending angry souls back to the world of the living. This movie was not based on a DC comic. This was instead based on a Dark Horse comic, and the premise is pretty interesting. You have these basically cops of the supernatural. They're guys that go around protecting the world of the living from evil ghosts and spirits. And I remember when the trailer came out in 2013, I was in middle school at the time, and I saw the trailer and I was like, okay, it looks kind of like Men in Black. You know, it's a little derivative, but that could be fun. And then the movie came out, and I never saw it. And much like Green Lantern, since I haven't seen it, I figured, hey, why not watch it and talk about it for a video? And so I've seen it, and yeah, it really is just like Men in Black, mixed with elements from a couple of other movies. We have a cop, played by Ryan Reynolds, named Nick, and, you know, it seems like his life is pretty good. He has a loving wife. They establish a thing very early on that they're growing an orange tree in their backyard. I really thought that was going to be a running motif throughout the movie, but no, there's no other references to trees or oranges. It's funny, when they mentioned the tree firsthand, I was like, oh god, it's going to turn into Ryan Reynolds' version of A Thousand Words with Eddie Murphy. That tree's going to start losing leaves every time Ryan Reynolds says something. He's a cop, and interestingly enough, his partner is played by Kevin Bacon. So if anything, it was just kind of fun to see Kevin Bacon in a movie again, even if the movie's not very good.
Firing. Motivating words from Detective Bobby Hayes. How about we don't get shot today? That's great advice. You're a good cop.
But yeah, there are a couple of hardened cops. They run in one day, there's a big shootout, and Ryan Reynolds ends up getting killed. And we actually have a pretty interesting visual of like the world around him just stopping. So he gets back up, everything is just frozen. He steps outside and then notices like a giant vortex in the sky that pulls him up, and then he ends up in this blank white office room with this woman who tells him that he's dead and that he can be a member of the RIPD.
Tough day. It's normal to be a little tongue-tied at first. I want you to know that I'm here to help you.
And it was stuff like this that I was actually kind of liking. I was like, okay, it is super Men in Black, but you know what? I can kind of dig it. It's like, it's derivative. Maybe it can be its own thing. Ryan Reynolds can be the Will Smith character, and, well, his partner, the veteran, is this old outlaw from the Old West days, played by Jeff Bridges, playing a cowboy character. I'm assuming he really liked playing his character in the True Grit remake, so he decided he was going to play a cowboy.
Just because I'm the only one willing to lethal up.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, you Jesus.
And for what it's worth, Jeff Bridges is good as that character. I actually liked him in this role as this like Old West character. I like the idea of you have people from different eras and different generations because all these people died in different times. So you have this matchup of modern day cop rookie meets the veteran who's literally from the Old West. That's an interesting team up.
When exactly was your day?
1800s, buddy. I'm what we used to call a lawman.
It was something that was actually different from the Men in Black formula. And I was like, man, I like this setup, I like this premise, but the movie doesn't really do anything a whole lot unique or interesting with this concept. And it also doesn't help that even though I think these guys give decent performances in the movie, Jeff Bridges and Ryan Reynolds don't really have interesting chemistry.
We got him.
Got him? What do you mean we got him? What'd we get? See what he got the gold.
What the hell's the matter with you?
Pissed about my hat.
I mean, we can say what we want about the Men in Black movies, you know, and the current thoughts on Will Smith or whatever, but at least those two guys had chemistry. You know, you actually liked seeing the two of them interact with each other. They had good banter, and it was good to see them become a lot friendlier, especially in the case of the first movie. I also had to remind myself that Men in Black 3 came out a year before this movie did. So after a funeral scene for Ryan Reynolds' character in the Mortal Worlds, they established that apparently the RIPD can interact with the world of the living, but they can interact with them under the guise of other people. So whenever Jeff Bridges is in the mortal world, he's super hot blonde woman, and Ryan Reynolds' human avatar is the restaurant owner of the Chinese restaurant from that episode of Seinfeld. I thought, okay, this is kind of interesting. That's their way of interacting with the world of the living, and a lot of people are going to think they look crazy because they're going to be shooting at evil spirits and demons or whatever, and, you know, it just looks like they're shooting at nothing. Like, there's a scene where he's running around with a banana and just, like, looks like he's just, like, blasting at nothing, and everyone's like, what's with that crazy old man? And then you jump into, like, their point of view, and they're, like, shooting at, like, a thing that's crawling up a building.
You okay? Somebody call 911. I'm okay. Nothing to see. Gotta go.
Stuff like that was really fun and really interesting, but the more the movie plays out, it really did just feel like watered down Men in Black. And I was really trying to give it the benefit of the doubt. It's like, okay, even if it's derivative, you can do original things. You have an interesting idea here. And they just kind of fumbled it. There's even a scene where they have to meet up with a guy to get some intel, and it's really, really similar to the scene in the first Men in Black where it's the guy that owns the shop, and they shoot his head, and then it grows back. It really is similar to that.
I am not dead. I mean, that's laughable. Check my pulse. Go ahead.
First question.
Except the difference in this movie is the guy turns into something that I swear to God looks like one of the monsters from Left 4 Dead 2.
Oh yeah, that's a dead-o. Big old mouth coming in. Feller was a snitch in life.
And that's not the last Valve reference. There are several monsters in this movie that look like things in Valve games. Like, there's some Left 4 Dead 2 stuff. Later on in the third act, there's a guy who's partially CG running around with like a giant Gatling gun, and I'm like, oh shit, it's the Heavy from Team Fortress 2. Ryan Reynolds' widow from the beginning of the movie, they kept showing her all throughout, and there are scenes where he's trying to say stuff to her, but of course he appears as the old Asian man, and she just thinks he's crazy.
I haven't left you.
But as the plot unravels, it slowly turns out that there's some bad guy who's trying to get their hands on a bunch of gold, which will be used to assemble a thing called the Staff of Jericho, which can... I don't even remember what the fuck they said. It kind of reminded me of the ending of Ghostbusters 2 when all the ghosts start attacking the city at the end. That's where a lot of the Ghostbusters comparisons come out with this movie. Like that ending scene really was reminding me of the climax of the first two Ghostbusters movies where, oh no, like the mortal world is colliding with the world of the undead, and there's all these like spirits and things running around attacking the city. Mixed with a little bit of Green Lantern, because there are scenes where like Ryan Reynolds is running through the city and they're being chased by... But the fact that it took place in a big city, it was also unfortunately reminding me of Man of Steel, which came out the same exact year. But as it turns out, the bad guy behind all of this was, surprise, surprise, Kevin Bacon, which, I mean, I wasn't surprised because of his character. I was just surprised, like, oh shit, Kevin Bacon playing a bad guy. That was a little surprising. But in terms of the story, it's like, oh, it turns out he was trying to kill Ryan Reynolds' character all along, because with him out of the way, you know, he could use his police authority to get in with these bad guys, so then he can get the staff of Jericho. And so he can open up the world of the undead or some shit.
This artifact, if built, reverses the tunnel. The dead rain down on the earth, that's it for the living world.
The point is, the two main leads are saving the day. They fucking take out Kevin Bacon, who, I love it, the more evil he becomes, not only does he look more like Willem Dafoe, but he starts to get these like little nicks in his face, and I'm like, shit, now he's just turning into knockoff Hellraiser. The wife ends up dying, but this means that her and Ryan Reynolds can get back together.
I missed you so much.
You gotta live your life. You can't stay here. Goodbye.
She's gonna be okay.
Thank you.
You owe me for that.
The day is saved. They take out Kevin Bacon and the bad guys. They stop the staff of Jericho, and you know, the mortal world goes back to normal, as normal as it could be. It was really reminding me of the end of Ghostbusters, and then leading into Ghostbusters 2, how everybody in the city was just like, oh yeah, ghosts aren't real. You know, the events of the first movie, all the ghosts and stuff, yeah, we all experienced that, right? We all saw a giant Stay Puft Marshmallow Man walking around and laying waste to the city. But in the second movie, at the beginning, everyone's like, oh yeah, no, that didn't happen. It didn't happen. What? These two are now a team. I guess Jeff Bridges has a thing with the lady that's like their commissioner, because they share like a weird romantic moment where they kiss and then she like licks and bites his like facial hair under his chin. What the fuck was that about? But then they get in the car and they switch Ryan Reynolds' avatar with, instead of the old Asian man, he's now a little Girl Scout with big glasses.
Pick it up.
As weird as that was, it was probably the biggest laugh I got in the movie, and it was the last joke. It was like the last thing in the movie, and it was the hardest I laughed. And then the movie just like goes to credits. It's like, oh. But as much as I'm nitpicking, I'd probably say RIPD was the better of the two. Green Lantern had one job, and that's to be a good Green Lantern movie. And I didn't think it succeeded in that front. RIPD, it is incredibly derivative of a bunch of other movies, and while it's not very good, I can't say that it was one of the worst things I ever sat through. I have seen plenty worse for Blockbuster videos. So, yeah, just based on the fact that it was better than Green Lantern, I had more entertainment value in that movie. I would say RIPD is the better of the two. Just don't expect anything great going in. And honestly, if you're not going to watch RIPD, just watch Ghostbusters or Men in Black instead. Those are way better versions of that movie anyway. The only other thing I wanted to bring up with RIPD is apparently there's a sequel.
Well, bounty hunters for rogue souls that escaped judgment.
I got this.
Our job is to find them and send them to where their ticket got punched. Hell, Roy. We send them to hell.
Which surprises the hell out of me, because this movie was a flop. This movie didn't do well with critics. It failed at the box office. So even in the realms of cashing in, why would you make a straight-to-video sequel on a movie that didn't even do well the first time? And this one doesn't even have any of the same actors or even the same level of talent behind it. So why? Why would you make a second RIPD? Then again, this is the same world where we can apparently make a straight-to-video sequel to Cop and a Half, which I don't even know how many people remember that movie. But yeah, there's this. I reviewed that a long time ago. That was a stupid-ass movie.
You take the entrance. I've got your flank covered. Hard right!
I guess it's like what we always joke about, that Universal just has like a bunch of people going through drawers of IPs they have, and then they go to the ones that nobody remembers, and it's like, oh yeah, RIPD, Cop and a Half. I don't know, make straight-to-video sequels just so we have stuff to put on a streaming service. But anyway, next time we're going to be talking about 4 movies and 1 video, I got the idea for this after I did my review of the first Digimon movie. We're going to be talking about 4 Pokemon movies, specifically the first 4, the ones that I remember watching from my childhood. So I'm going to rewatch those, and I'm going to talk about them for a video. So that'll certainly be interesting. I haven't thought about these Pokemon movies in forever, and I know there's plenty more out there, but the first 4 are specifically the ones that I remember watching with my sister when we were growing up. So yeah, that'll be interesting. But until then, I'm Adam Sykes of the Blockbuster Show, and we will see you guys in the next video.
God damn, that's beautiful.
You're welcome, Canada.